Hey everyone, it's Dora from flippinghouseandpancakes.com, and today I thought that we would do a little bit of food prep for our freezer. We're going to make some meals to throw in the freezer, so on one of those really chaotic, crazy days, I'm sure you have them, I know I for sure do, I'll have something to just grab, throw in the oven, and heat up, and I don't even have to worry about the prep. So let's make some freezer meals. The first freezer meal that I'm going to make today is a little more complicated than my usual meals. I'm going to make some shepherd's pie. Now, yes, technically this would be called cottage pie because I'm not using ground lamb. I'm using ground beef, but I like to call it shepherd's pie just because I think it's more fun. I like that name. You can find this recipe in my cookbook, Flipping Houses and Pancakes, Kosher Recipes and Kitchen Design Tips from an Amateur Professional. My recipe is in that cookbook. Definitely get it. But in the meantime, let's make this dish. We're going to start by cutting up 10 potatoes. I already started. We're going to peel and dice 10 potatoes. And these potatoes are going to become the top of our shepherd's pie. We're going to boil these in some salted water. We're going to mash them, turn them into a delicious mashed potato. And yes, you can eat that just by itself because it will be delicious. But in this case, we're going to pay no attention to the man behind the window. It's fine. Okay, in this case, we are going to we're gonna top. This is practically live. This video. We're gonna top our shepherd's pie with a delicious coating of mashed potatoes, homemade, fresh mashed potatoes, not the stuff from the box. I like the stuff from the box. I use it, but not for this recipe. I'm gonna finish dicing these up. I'm gonna put them in a pot of water that's slightly salted. I'm gonna boil them up until they're able to be pierced with a fork nicely. We're gonna drain them and let them cool a little bit, and we're gonna turn them into mashed potatoes. So let me finish this up and we'll be back. Okay, my potatoes are cooking. I'm actually switching to milchiks right now, dairy, and I'm going to make some really quick, no-boil lasagna. And I love making this. You may have seen me make this on a video before. It's just super easy. I have 1 jar of marinara sauce. I put some in the bottom of my pan, and it freezes so beautifully. It doesn't need to take a long time to make a delicious meal. So we are going to make this. I take out my lasagna noodles. These are regular ones. These are not the no-boil ones. I really don't like the texture of the no-boil noodles. So I use the regular noodles. I'm going to take a container of cottage cheese. I use 2% just because that's the one I like. And I'm going to spread half of it on top of my noodles. If you want, this recipe is on my blog. If you want exact amounts and everything, you can definitely go check out my blog, flippinghouseandpancakes.com, and you can find the exact recipe. I'm going to put a little bit of that. I'm going to put a little bit of shredded cheese on top. Not a lot. We don't need so much of that in the middle because we're going to definitely top it with that. And then we'll pour some more sauce over it. And I'm just going to keep layering this until I'm done, pretty much. So I'm going to spread that sauce out, and then we're going to do another layer. I'll do a few layers, and it'll be about ready. Some more noodles, more cheese. Like I said, you could do half. I usually end up doing 3 or 4 layers of noodles. You can definitely use more cheese and make thicker layers. Since we like the nice crisp topping, I tend to make thinner lasagnas, but I'll make 2 of them instead. So it's just up to you which way you prefer to do it. I'm gonna add some more shredded cheese, another round of noodle. I actually have a little more cottage cheese in here. You could use ricotta if you don't want to use cottage cheese, but we don't need it to be so heavy in our house. So I like to use cottage cheese. I also find it to be a little more moist, and we definitely, remember, we're not boiling these noodles, so we definitely want the moisture in our lasagna. Okay, got a little more shredded cheese, and a little more sauce. There we go. I'm gonna spread it out, and then we'll do our last layer. Okay, because this dinner takes me 5 minutes to make. It takes 2 hours for it to cook in the oven, but it takes me 5 minutes to make. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pour whatever sauce I have over the top and spread it around. I'm actually going to step over to the sink for a minute. I'm going to fill my jar about 3/4 of the way up. Just do this one right now. I'm going to fill it about 3/4 of the way up. Close it and shake it up so I get all that sauce out of my jar. And that's about how much liquid I need to cook these noodles in anyhow. I'm going to gently pour it over the top of my lasagna. It looks full of water. The noodles will absorb it, so don't worry about that. I'm gonna sprinkle some cheese on top. Now, you could freeze it just like this, but I usually bake it first and then I freeze it. When I reheat it, it still tastes perfect, so it's not a big deal. So I'm gonna actually cover this and bake it for about 2 hours in the oven at 400 degrees. And then I'll take it out. I'll let it cool down and I'll freeze it in my freezer. But again, if you don't want to do that and you don't have the time, then go ahead, cover it, freeze it just like this. Just be careful because it is liquidy. Freeze it just like this and then take it out of the freezer and throw it in the oven for 2 hours at 400 degrees. And you'll have a delicious, easy lasagna that you didn't have to do much to get it all prepared. All right, I think we should check on those potatoes. All right, I checked on my potatoes. They're not quite ready, so we're gonna move on to my third dish that I'm gonna make and freeze. And this is just gonna be a nice, simple meat sauce with a little wine in it. It'll taste really great. I can take it out another time. I can thaw it. I can cook up a little pot of noodles, and I can just dump the meat sauce in there. It'll be super simple. So we're gonna make some meat sauce. Freezes really well. I'm gonna start with an onion. Just gonna go ahead, this is a yellow onion. Just gonna go ahead and give it a nice dice, and I'm gonna start sauteing this onion with some ground beef. Ground beef was on sale today, so I figured I would make 2 dishes with ground beef to put in my freezer since it was a pretty good price. I am also using extra lean ground beef, which is the kind of ground beef I prefer. It has a little less fat, which is always a good thing. And if you're worried that you're not going to have enough flavor because it doesn't have as much fat, well, I compensate by using things like wine. I'm going to get my saute pan out and I'm going to start cooking up my onions and my ground beef. And we'll start adding in the other ingredients too. All right, we've got just the ground beef and the onion. It's going to take a little time for it to get up to temperature. You can see it's starting to cook at the bottom. And we'll get this all cooked up and then we're going to add the other ingredients. All right, this ground beef is just about ready, so let's start adding some of our other ingredients. We've got some diced tomatoes. This is going to be so good. Knocked over a can. We've got my tomato sauce. Can of tomato sauce right here. Delicious. I'm gonna add a jar of chili sauce in. Try to keep the camera from bouncing too much. Sorry. I'm holding the camera right now. I should have put it on my stand. We got our chili sauce in. All right, I'm gonna add some garlic powder. Not too much, about a half a teaspoon. And about a half a cup of wine. I'm actually using what I had in the fridge right now, which was a Moscato d'Asti, but I would normally probably use a red one. It's just this one was open and had lost a little bit of its bubble anyhow, so I figured no harm, right? And I'm just gonna stir this up, let it cook for a few minutes so that all the flavors kind of meld together. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna put it in a container. I'm gonna pop it in the freezer. And then the next time I'm making a pasta and I'm in a rush or something crazy is going on, I just take the, oh, it smells so good. You guys, it smells so good. I wish you could smell it. Anyhow, I'm just going to take it out of the freezer and put it in my pasta, and that's it. It'll be ready. Okay, I got the meat sauce done. It's sitting there cooling off, and my potatoes are ready. They're just cooling off a little bit also. I don't want them to be too hot. And I'm starting to cook up 2 diced onions with another 2 pounds of ground beef. And this will be the base of my shepherd's pie. So we'll get this ground beef all cooked, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients for this shepherd's pie. Okay, this is almost ready, so we're gonna start adding the other ingredients. I have another 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, which is great. I got 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Now this is a par of kind, no fish, okay? I have some salt, some garlic powder, some parsley, and some cumin. Gonna add that in. And then I'm gonna add a 16-ounce bag of frozen veggies, mixed veggies. So we've got peas and carrots today. I'm gonna stir this all up and cook it all for a few minutes, just until those vegetables are a little softened. And then we're gonna go ahead and put this into our baking pan. Okay, my beef mixture is done, it's ready. So we just have to finish off the potatoes. Usually I use margarine, but I don't use margarine a lot in my house, so I discovered I'm completely out of it, which is perfect. So instead of margarine, we're going to use oil, not olive oil. Use a canola oil, or this was an avocado oil, any oil that doesn't have a lot of an overwhelming flavor. Okay, we're gonna put some oil, we're gonna put some salt. I'm using about a teaspoon of salt again. This recipe is in my cookbook. It sounds like it's a lot of effort. It really is not that bad. Especially if you can get a kid to peel your potatoes for you. It makes all the difference. If you can't, and you're like, I can't do this, I can't make this pie, this shepherd's pie, because the potatoes are too much work, go ahead and use the mashed potatoes on top. It's not gonna be as good, but it'll still be good. So I have just the potatoes, some oil, and some salt. I'm just gonna hand mash them. Sometimes I'll use my mixer for that, but if you're not careful with a mixer, you can overmash them and they will become kind of chewy. Is that a good way to put it? A little chewy. So in order to avoid that, we're going to use my hand masher, but the potatoes are nice and soft, so this is only going to take me a minute or two to do. We got to mix the oil and the salt in, just to give it that nice kind of texture and flavor. And these potatoes are going to end up right on top of my shepherd's pie. Now, you can make it look fancy, you can pipe them on if you really want, or anything like that, but if you know me, you know I am not fancy when it comes to the way my food looks. I want it to taste good. I don't care quite as much about how it looks. I mean, I want it to look appetizing, but it doesn't have to look fancy. So I am not going to pipe it on. I am just going to spread the potatoes on top and kind of compound them, pack them down a little bit, get a nice coating on the top of this shepherd's pie. Okay, so looks like we're pretty mashed. Pretty mashed. It looks pretty good, I think. I like mashed potatoes. Like I said, you could definitely use margarine. I used oil today. Okay, so let's go ahead and put these potatoes on top of my shepherd's pie. Now here's the thing. Normally I bake my shepherd's pie in a a nice pretty dish that I own, but this is gonna get frozen. Remember, this is for later. This one part needs a little more mashing. 1 minute. So I'm storing this I'm gonna freeze this in an aluminum pan. And I'm not actually going to bake it right now. I'm going to finish putting the potatoes on top. Then we're gonna sprinkle it with paprika. Now, I could have mashed them a little smoother. I didn't do a very smooth job today, but that's okay. It's been a busy week. So I'm gonna pack these down. If I use a spoon. Oops. I don't pack it down too hard and make all the liquids come up from underneath. So let me get something to smooth it over. Hold on. Okay, we got something to smooth it over. I'm gonna smooth the top of my shepherd's pie. This is a little full. I think the pan that I usually use is a little bigger, but nobody will be hungry when they finish this. So that's great. You could always divide this up into smaller pans if you want, however you like to do it. It's your dish. But all I'm gonna do is, there we go, smooth it over. I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of paprika over the top. Sprinkle the paprika over the top. Okay, and normally I would put this in the oven to bake right now, but I'm not going to do that because this is for my freezer. I'm gonna cover this, I'm gonna wrap it up, I'm gonna put it in my freezer, and then one day when it's super chaotic and crazy, I'm gonna pull it out of the freezer and I'm going to bake it. And then we will have a shepherd's pie. This is also a perfect gift to give to somebody who just had a baby or who has somebody ill in the family, because they can just throw it into, you could put it in your freezer, take it out, give it to them, and then they can throw it in their oven, and 2 hours later, you'll have a nice hot shepherd's pie, super filling, super delicious. The lasagnas are in the oven. As soon as they're ready, I'm going to take them out, let them cool down, and put them in the freezer for another time. I also have my meat sauce done, which will be perfect over spaghetti or over another pasta, or probably even served with rice. Anything goes, really. It'll be delicious. And I've got my shepherd's pie ready to be wrapped up and put in the freezer for another day. I hope you enjoyed cooking these nice freezer meals with me. And if you did, you should please hit like, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications so you find out every time I upload a new video. Go get my cookbook, which has the shepherd's pie recipe in it. And check out my blog, which has the lasagna recipe on it. And of course, don't forget, any of these recipes could be made and eaten right away. You don't have to freeze them. But if you do want to freeze them, they're perfect for that. They're perfect for freezing. And please, like I said, check out my website, flippinghouseandpancakes.com, where you can find my blog and my book, available now, also available on Amazon, flippinghouseandpancakes.com.